I'm going to put this on record before I start talking. So, welcome. I thought, we're sitting at home and looking for a way to make meaning out of all of this. And I just thought, I'm going to do something that I like. I'm going to do something that brings me joy. And I haven't taught this class in a good 10, 15 years, really. I don't think, maybe something like that. I used to teach women in Tanakh a lot. And I thought maybe now with all of this stuff going on and the uncertainty and the strangeness of our lives, I thought maybe we would all see new things in the text. So, and plus, I also, I recently ran for the Knesset on this women's party, and I learned a lot of really hard lessons about readiness, societal readiness or a lack of readiness to take women's issues seriously. So I thought maybe I'm also different. Maybe if I reread the texts now, maybe I'm also in a different place and seeing things differently. I'm not sure. So anyway, so that's what this is. It's not very heavily planned. It's just an invitation to read women together, read women's lives together. Yes, how's that sound?
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I'm down.
Beginning, I thought we'll start from Chava, start at the beginning, and I'll do this for as long as we'll start where we start and see where it takes us. So we'll start with Chava. We'll go to Rereads. We'll start with, hang on, I'm actually gonna, do you want me to share this? I'm using the Chabad Tanakh. It has Hebrew and English translation side by side, which is very convenient. And I actually like their translations as opposed to other, the Machon Mamre also has English Hebrew translation next to each other, but Machon Mamre is very, a little bit awkward. And Chabad tries to make it less awkward. Anyway, okay, so let's start with, I think maybe Perek Bet, maybe the end of Perek Bet. Hang on a second. Yeah, we'll start with Perek Bet. Pasuk Zayin. Or maybe before that, we'll start Pasuk Dalet. We'll start with where the story starts. Okay. Are you there?
I am.
Do you want me to share?
Yeah, sorry, I've never used Zoom, so I'm clearly in the dark. Yeah.
I'm going to show you the chat. You can see on the bottom there's a chat button, and in the chat I'm giving you the link to the online. Okay, so you can go there and okay.
Yeah, got it. Sorry, this is new. Okay. Zion.
Somebody new is coming on. Okay, so Ruby, is that okay? Somebody new is coming on. Okay, so we're talking about. We're going to start this tonight talking about Chava. We're looking at Rereads, Perek Bet. So we'll start. And I'm using an English Hebrew translation. I'm using the Chabad site, but you can use whatever works for you. Okay. Perek Bet Pasuk Daled, chapter 2, verse 4. Ele toldot hashamayim va'aretz b'hibar'am b'yom ha'asaret Hashem Elokim eretz v'shamayim. Okay, so now we have a new story, a new creation story. As opposed to, there's a lot that's been written about the fact that the Torah gives us two creation stories. The first creation story is the orderly one with the 7 days and everything has a place and it's hierarchical and it's neat and contained. And then we have a whole different version of creation which starts around here, which is a whole different type of creation story, which is messier and more narrative and much more human-centered. In the first creation story, the human beings come last. It's all about nature and earth and universe, all of that. And only on the seventh day, it's not human-centric, but humans are possibly the climax of creation. Here, it's a whole different way of telling the story. So Here is the story of the way the world was created. וכל שיח השדה, טרם יהיה בארץ, כל עשב השדה, טרם יצמח, כי לא המטיר השם אלוקים על הארץ, באדם עין, לעבוד את האדמה. Right, so already here, in the first verse, or the second verse, what it says here is that, I'll read the English. Now, no tree of the field was yet on the earth, neither did any herb of the field yet grow, because the Lord God had not brought rain upon the earth, and there was no man to work the soil. So already, like humanity, man, Adam, already appears here, already as the central theme. And of course, Adam here is Adam, man, as opposed to in the first creation, where let's just take a quick look back at the way men and women were created in the first story. We have in Pasuk. And in Parak Aleph, Pasuk Kaf Zayin, a really, really important Pasuk for all of us interested in gender issues. Chapter 1, verse 27 is how humanity was created and how women were created. It says, Vayivra Elohim et ha'adam b'tzalmo, b'tzelem Elohim bara oto, zachar u'nekeva bara otam. Okay, which it's really hard to translate precisely because it switches from plural to singular. It says, and God created man or humanity. It's not clear whether Adam here means man and humanity, right? Because a second later, it says, that God created this Adam with Zachar and Nekeva together. So there's a very famous article by Ruti Ravitsky, which talks about, in Ruti Ravitsky's book, she didn't actually write it, she edited it, in her book in Hebrew of Women Reading Tanakh, where the claim is made that when God created humanity here, God created a sort of like a hermaphrodite, a male and female being together. So the very first creature to be created was not actually male, but was male and female together. So that here in Parak Aleph, Adam is a creature that has Zachar Nekeva in there. As opposed to, now let's go back to where we were. We were in chapter 2 in the second creation story, where in the second creation story, Adam means Adam. Adam is not a generic Adam. It's not a generic male. Like, this is a problem we have in life in general. When people say mankind, when they say mankind, do they mean men or do they mean men and women? So there are some people who like to claim, when we use words like mankind or to man a stall or, who's going to be the man in this room or something, that we don't really mean men, we mean people. But there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it's not really generic, that man is not really generic, that when we say men, we mean men, that mankind means the history of men. That history means his story, doesn't really mean. Okay, so here what we see in these two prakim of the Tanakh here, we see two different versions of that. In Parak Aleph, Adam can be read as generic because a few words later it says that Adam, that word Adam, is actually as Zachar Nekeva, as opposed to here in this story, one chapter later, the second creation story, Adam means man. It is not generic. Okay, so where were we? So we were in chapter 2, chapter 2, verse 5. Okay, that here already it's a very human-centric story in that the land is suffering because there is no man to work it. And also it's setting up this idea that man's destiny is to work the land. Okay, that our destiny is, now, what does that mean to work the land? Like, what is the hierarchy here between humanity and nature? Like, we could ask the question, what is the hierarchy in chapter 1 between humanity and nature? And what's the hierarchy here between humanity and nature? In the first chapter, it talks about lichvosh, right? Of God, our land, our job, the humanity's job is to lichvosh Adam, and then plu urvu. At the same time, we're sort of little. We're one of many creatures. Whereas here, our job is la'avod et ha'adama. It's like a destiny thing.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. No, I never actually read the verse like that, and I'm thinking that it's actually, from a literary perspective, it's really interesting that Tanakh brings up the detail that at this point there's no man to work the soil, because isn't this Gan Eden? Like, isn't, you know what I mean? Like, isn't the whole point that there's no work? Like, there's no work to do. And then, you know, speaking of gender issues, like, you know, later when they, you know, get exiled from Gan Eden, you know, it's announced that, you know, women will suffer in childbirth as a punishment of Eve, and, you know, man shall rule over you. Ooh, who knows what that means? But also, man shall work by the sweat of his brow. And I'm like, wait, so that implies that until then their work, you know, everything just, you know, came down like that.
Right. So you're reading the story from the end, which is exactly it. In other words, the end of this story is that the punishment is that we have to work the land. So what you're pointing out here, which is an excellent point, is that already from the beginning, the text is planting the seed about what the moral of the story is. Okay, the moral of the story is, as a result of all this, as a result of this story, that man has to work the land, and the man work the land is very much the man and not the woman. Okay, so I think, okay. All right, so let's keep going. Ready? Now, mist came up from the land, which is sort of similar but a little bit different from what we have in the first reading, where we have so it's a sort of similar sense of like chaos, and that, you know, there are these elements, just very base elements flying around. Okay, and then we go to Pasuk Zayin, which is a key verse in terms of how humanity is created. Now, Vayiter Hashem Elokim et ha'adam afar min ha'adama vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim vayhi ha'adam lenefesh chaya. Okay, and now this is a very different story. This is a very different version from what we saw before. Here we have this idea of God, that somehow this is a special creature. This is something different. It's not just that we were the last animal, because like in the first story, we were created on the sixth day after all the animals, and we were, you know, an animal that was doing the pru'avur that everybody else is doing. Here there's something else. Nishmat chayim, nishmat chayim. There are no other animals here. It's just this special being, man. Now, and man, again, we'll see soon that it's man and not man and woman. So now here's what Rivka was saying. Now we have God Eden is created, and God puts his favorite Adam there. ויצמח השם אלוקים מן האדם כל עץ נחמד למראה וטוב למאכל ועץ החיים בתוך הגן ועץ הדעת טוב ורע. And now what's interesting is that everything we saw in chapter 1 in Parak Aleph, all of those days, you know, and all of many psukim which talk about, you know, the trees and the flowers and the plants, all of that has been flattened and condensed here to like half a pasuk, and it all revolves around, you know, how it serves man here. Okay, it's about our knowledge. Okay, keep going. יצא מגן עדן להשקות את הגן, ומשם ייפרד והיה לערב הראשי. שם האחד ראשון הוא הסובב את כל החבילה שהשם זהב, והזהב הארץ ההיא טוב שם הבדולח ואבן השער. Okay, so and ושם הנהר השני גיחון. Okay, we have a list of the four famous rivers. It's not so important. We're going to skip those. Now here we have. We're going to skip down to verse 15. Getting back to the whole story of the creation of man and woman. ויקח השם אלוקים את האדם ויניחהו בגן עדן לעובדה ולשומרה. Vayitzav Hashem, and God took the man and placed him in Gan Eden le'ovda or le'shamra. Okay, so that on one hand, it's le'ovda, means, it's serving, but also le'shamra, it's also a place of authority, right? Le'shamra, you are the guardian. Okay, you have like a role you have like an oversight type of role. You're like the boss here. It's a bossy role, which is new. Le'ovda le'shamra. ויצב השם אלוקים את האדם לאמור, מכל עץ הגן אוכל תאכל, ומעץ הדעת טוב ורע לא תאכל ממנו, כי ביום אוכלך ממנו מות תמות. And here we have the beginning of our story, where God says, here is this tree. You can eat from everything, but you cannot eat from עץ הדעת טוב ורע. כי ביום אוכלך ממנו mot tamut, which is a really strange, it's strange, okay? Why is the text equating knowledge with death? Why is the text saying to us, once you taste of this, knowing right from wrong, you're going to die? Why? Why is God setting that up for us that way? You guys have any ideas? Because we're used to, I'll tell you what I'm thinking, okay? We are used to thinking of God in uncritical terms. We're used to thinking about this story as God saying, teaching us, how we should be living our lives. But actually, everything we see here is brought to us with a sort of, I want to say, a certain, an ethos, right? An ethos which is trying to tell us, how we should be living our lives based on ideas that may have been around, in particular religions or particular societies. So there's a message here, right? The message here, the religious message here in this pasuk, which equates knowledge with death, is basically saying, it is not your job to know everything. It is not your job, humanity, to know too much. Do not try to know what God knows. Do not try to understand all the ways of right and wrong. It's about obedience. The message here is basically saying, obedience comes first. Obedience first. It's not about thinking too much and knowing too much. Your desire to know too much is dangerous. It's setting that up right here. And it's setting them up in particular because who's going to be the one who wants to know too much and doesn't understand obedience? The woman.
The woman.
The woman. Okay? So let's keep going. Immediately, right after this, God says, if you know too much, it's the end of you. If you know too much, that's the end. You're going to lose everything. That's not what you're here for. You're going to lose your entire purpose. You're going to lose everything that I just set up for you. It's not your job to try to know. And the next verse right away is, here comes the woman. Here she comes. Introduce woman. Woman enters stage left. Vayomer Hashem Elokim, lo tov hayot adam levado, eselo ezer kinagdo. It sounds so lovely, right? God is doing Adam a favor. Look, this poor guy, he's alone. I want to care for him. Let's do something nice for him, And it's like, poor Adam, poor God. They were all trying to do something nice, and it all became such a disaster, right? Here comes this disaster. We were hoping to do something great. And Ezer, Kinegdo, someone who's going to be good for him. ויצר השם אלוקים מן האדמה כל חיית השדה ואת כל עוף השמיים ויבא את האדם לראות מה יקרא לו וכל אשר יקרא לו אדם נפש חיה ושמו. Okay, now why is the story of the creation of the woman interrupt did with this verse about naming the animals. Because what does it mean to name an animal? What does it mean to name someone? It's power. If you give something, I'm sorry, say it again. I heard someone talking. Okay, sorry, I don't know what it was. Naming someone. If you give someone a name, then that's power. You own them. You own it. It's ownership, right? So it's setting up this very clear hierarchy that says male man is there to own creation, is to own creatures. Man is clearly at the center here. So we've set this idea that, God is trying to, create a world that's good for man. And Gladys, hang on. Hi, Gladys, welcome on. Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Welcome.
Good. I'm going to stay on as long as I can.
Yay, welcome. We are studying Chava. We're starting at the beginning. We're in Gan Eden. We're about to see this. We're in Perek Bet, Pasuk Breshit Perek Bet.
Okay.
Okay. So we basically said God, the world was created for man, meaning male, as opposed to in Perek Aleph. In Perek Aleph, for the first creation, so there are two creation stories. In Perek Aleph, when God creates man and woman, He creates them as equals. The first creature was equality. It was one creature. And Adam there means the generic Adam. It means the male and female together. Here in Perek Bet, with the second creation story, it's a different kind of Adam. And here, Adam is not generic. Adam means the male. Because we have this whole story which says, okay, now for this Adam, we're going to create a female. And so we're looking at that process. And so right before God decided to introduce the woman, He said, which I offered an interpretation, which is about the idea that you're not supposed to know too much. We take this sort of for granted that of course, you can't eat the Eitz Hadat because you're going to die. But the Eitz Hadat Torah, why is this pasuk equating da'at, knowledge, with death? It's really very, very striking. And it's a very, very powerful message, in my opinion, which is basically saying knowing is not a good thing. Only God is supposed to know. Human beings are not supposed to know too much. It's about obedience. In other words, the whole idea is that it's setting up the idea that to be a good human being means to not push your boundaries too much, to not go beyond what, knowing your place. You have to know, here are my boundaries. I can only go up to here. Beyond that, I'm playing with fire. I'm trying to be like God, and it's going to be the end of me. I'm going to die. Okay, and the very next pasuk is when God says, okay, let's find you a woman. Because and it's set up in the way, like God is having sort of sympathy and compassion for Adam and wants to do something good. So the woman is being introduced as a good thing, we're going to do a favor for Adam, which sets up God and Adam as the good guys, but also sets up woman as there for the purpose of serving the larger narrative. The larger narrative is what's good for man in this world, and man's purpose to work the land and to work and to guard the land. Okay, so woman is about to mess this all up. That's how this is being set up. Woman is about to mess everything up. Now, before woman is actually coming in to mess everything up, we have Pasuk Yutet, in which seems like a diversion. It's suddenly God brings all the animals to Adam to say, give them all a name. And what I was saying here was that giving a name is an act of control and ownership. If you give something a name, then it's yours. Who gives the name and who gets the name. And also for someone to not have a name, it's almost reminiscent of slavery, a lot of the stories in slavery where a slave would come and then, once you buy a slave, you give the slave your own name. It's like ownership there. So this is very similar that way. So here in Pasuk Kaf, it says, ויקרא האדם שמו לכל הבהמה, לעוף השמיים, לכל חיית השדה, לאדם לא מצא עזר כנגדו. So first of all, we have this God that Adam named all the animals. So it's a clear hierarchy set up between man and animals, to say man owns the animals. But also that, still something was missing. The animals didn't do it for him. Okay, so what happens next? ויפל השם אלוקים תרדמה על האדם, וישן, ויקח אחת מצלותיו, ויסגור בשר תחתנה. Okay, so this is how God creates the woman, by taking one of his tzalotav, which we often, we often hear interpreted as rib. It may be rib, it may be half, like Selah could be also his side, like in the Beit HaMikdash, when the Mikdash was created, the word Selah there means like a side. So, and also vayisgor basar tachtena. What does that mean, vayisgor basar tachtena? Is that when like a penis was invented? That's sort of like what it sounds like, if you ask me, like vayisgor basar tachtena. And then we have the whole idea of the Brit Milah, and what is that about, and does it connect to this? I'm just throwing that out here. It's not, okay. ויבן השם אלוקים את הצלע אשר לקח מן האדם לאישה ויבאר אל האדם. Okay, so now the point here, the main point here, I think, is the hierarchy. Okay, because this whole description is about creating hierarchy between man and the universe, between man and animals, between man and the earth. Okay, and now between man and woman. It's about making sure that we all understand that Adam is the apex. This is all about Adam and Adam's world. Excuse me. Coughs are scary in times like this, but that's just because I'm talking too much, not because I have corona. Okay. Anyway, we're far. You can't get corona through. Okay.
We probably already have corona.
That's like possibly also.
Like, yeah, a lot of people are asymptomatic, so what else?
Okay. Yeah. Back to
Carpe diem, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Let's just go with what it is. Okay. So, but it's interesting about the cough is that it shows us how the same act takes different meaning in different contexts, which is why, what I said at the beginning, which is why I wanted to reread some of these old texts, because after everything we've been through in this world, we've been through, Trump, Bibi, and for me, running for Knesset and learning so much, hearing so much. For me, and also obviously Corona, how this world is going to change. That's my dog. How it's all changing. I feel like we're all in a new context now, and everything has new meaning. Just like my cough suddenly has new meaning. Everything around us has new meaning. So I'm wondering, for me, if like going back to these texts has new meaning for me now that I've been through different things, and we've all been through different things. So anyway, so that's why I decided to do this. I decided to look again at old things and see if we have new meaning to them. Anyway, okay, thank you for sharing the journey with me. So, right. So here we are, we're in Pasuk 22, Kaf Bet, okay? ויבן השם אלוקים את הצלע אשר לקח מן האדם לאישה, ויבאר אל האדם. There isn't even a whole pasuk just about creation of woman. The whole purpose of creation of the woman is vayivia el ha'adam, is to bring her to man. In other words, she is here for the purpose of a male-centric existence. This whole chapter is all from the eyes of Adam, man. ויאמר האדם, זאת הפעם עצם מעצמי ובשר מבשרי, וזאת יקרא אישה, כי מאיש לקחה זאת. Our entire man. We wouldn't exist without man. We are a piece of man. We don't stand on our own. Our whole purpose is that we are, one of them, which reminds me of like so many like Ki'ilu love songs, which say things like, like you're the best part of me. And it's like, no, I'm not a part of you. Or like, oh, there's a song that Shlomo Artzi sings. Ahavtia אני יודע זאת בכלל אהבתיה, כמו עכשיו, כמו היום, כי את שלי עכשיו, כמו השיר, right? Because you're mine now, just like this song, right? Meaning that Shlomo Artzi wrote a song. He wrote a song. The song came out of his mind and his eyes and his voice and his hands and his pen. That's his song. He created it. And then he wants to write a love song about the woman, and he says, you are just like this song, right? And it makes me cringe every time because no, I am not your song. I am not the thing that you created. Full credit to you for writing a song. Awesome. Sachte to you for writing a song. I am not your song. But where does that idea come from? Like, you're the best key. And there's a song that I'm also thinking, I overanalyze, pop culture. It like drives my kids a little bit crazy. But this is what I do. I listen to songs and I hear things. And for me, a lot of songs that say, oh, you're the best part of me. There's echoes from this chapter right here, where woman does not exist alone. We don't exist. We don't exist alone. We exist as something that was created as I'm a bone of someone else's being. He gets to be whole. He gets to be whole. Not only does he get to be whole, he gets to be whole and to have an entire universe there to serve him. The entire universe is there, and God is doing whatever he wants. You need a helper? You need you need that? Don't worry, I'll get that for you. You want to choose from every single animal out there in creation? Yeah, go for it. Find something, find whatever you want. The whole world is yours. That's the male experience of life. And what are we? We are created for the purpose. Out of him, we don't even get to stand on our own. We don't have our own purpose. We don't have our own destiny. We don't have our own ability to create. We are just here to serve that larger narrative of how central men are. Now, I would say, okay, so this book was written 3,000 years ago, but no, these are still the narratives that we're living with on a day-to-day basis. These are still the narratives we're living with. And I was saying, things that I heard on the campaign trail about, we went places where we were laughed at. We would say Manhigut Nashim, women's leadership, and they'd be literally laughing. We got that on social media also, oh, what a joke, it's so funny. Why is it so funny to consider women as leaders? Because a text like this that, constructs us as our entire purpose of existence is to serve the need for man to be the leader. Man is the leader, man is at control of the entire universe. Our job is to serve that. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna get off my tangent now. Does anybody want to say anything about that before we keep going?
Yeah, actually, anyone else? Sorry, I don't know how cool you are with longish interjections. So basically it's two things. I wanted to comment on the issue of names. I'm going own my literary studies skills. How familiar are you with language theory? So basically there was a whole thing where or with the saussure, basically there was a thing where it was thought for a very long time that language reflects essence. And then it was found out that words can mean different things in different languages, so it's not true. Words do not necessarily capture essence. Of course, in the Bible, they totally do.
So Rivka, I want to make clear that I am not an essentialist at all.
No, I know you're not, totally. But what I'm thinking of in relation to essentialism is that, obviously, of course, Tanakh here is deeply essentialist because it's that, when Adam gives the animal a name that that imparts, the name reflects the essence, all Hebrew words have certain meanings, but also I think it centers man not just as owner of the thing, the person who gives the names. It's also the person who creates meaning, the ability to create meaning through language.
It also embodies God. Right, that naming is also doing a godly thing in that sense. If you're talking about from that essential perspective, it's giving essence, right, which is theoretically only what God can do, right? If you believe in, essentialism that you're basically saying that like there's a truth and a not truth, and so so that
Right.
so that God, that man is the shaliach of God, like man is doing God's work. That's a really interesting point.
The other thing was, what was it actually? I'm being served. Oh yeah, no, you were talking about pop culture, which is also like, you know, over analyzing pop culture, which is also a hobby of mine. And I was reminded of the song Sisters Are Doing It for Themselves. You know the lyrics? Oh, it's actually really relevant. It's by the Eurythmics and Aretha Franklin. So basically it totally turns around. It says like it used to be that behind, everyone said like behind, you know, every great man stands a great woman, but now there are different times and sisters are doing it for themselves. It's a great song. It's very catchy, but I think it's about 30 years old. And I was just, it's actually really disheartening to know that there've been so many like empowering songs out there that are quite old, and still there's so much of this like new bullshit coming out anyways.
The lesson, and one of my big lessons in life, especially recently, is that progression is not linear. We are not seeing linear progression. When we're seeing this, it's this and this and this and this and this and this. One step forward, two steps back, over and over again.
Yeah. Send you the link of the song. It's really good.
Okay, let's keep going. Ready? Okay, so where were we? Parak Bet. Right, so when woman is created, finally Adam is satisfied. Pasuk Kaf Gimel, Vayomer Adam Zot hapam etzem me'atzama v'asam Yisrael lezot yikarei isha ki me'ish likufat zot. Okay, that she is the best part of me. She comes straight from me. Okay, Al ken ya'azov ish. Now this pasuk, I just want to say about this pasuk. Al ken ya'azov ish et aviv et imo v'davak b'ishto v'hayu lo basar echad. Okay, here we have a very clear description of sex, basically, right? It's also a very, very powerful description of an I don't want to say old, the concept of marriage. Okay, I just want to tell you that when I was growing up, I've talked about this, how like I grew up in an old-fashioned household, okay, not a feminist household at all. And every time, like there was a wedding in the family, whatever, my father always used to quote this pasuk. He loves this pasuk. My father's a Baal Kriya, so he like knows the whole Tanakh by heart because he like has been laning for 50 years, and so he you know, he has a lot of like associations, and so this is one of his associations. Like he hears about marriage, and he would say, right? So anyway, we'll come back to this. Because it's relevant for the end of the story also. Okay, now, they were both naked and not embarrassed. That is a very, I want to say Christian, it's like a very Christian concept, right? Here we're hearing for the first, you know, this very clear idea that nakedness is something to be ashamed of. Okay, we're in the end of chapter 2, and suddenly we learn that nakedness, your body, is something that you need to be ashamed of. And we know that this is a very, very current concept, body shame. I mean, oh my God, every woman, I don't want to say every woman I know, lots and lots of women I know struggle with body shame because we were all brought up with this idea that, you know, my body is something to be ashamed of. It exists among men also, but not quite the same way. Anyway, we'll come back to this also. I just want to also point out here, Adam v'ishto is again a phrase that places the woman as secondary, as subservient, as life revolves around Adam, and it's a conceptual that we hear in the media all the time. Like even, you know, like, oh, Tom Hanks got corona. Tom Hanks and his wife got corona. You know, George Clooney and his wife.
Possession.
Exactly.
It implies possession, and that the central frame of focus is him, the guy, and that she is sort of in the periphery and by association connected to him, and therefore by default of interest, but in an ancillary sort of a secondary way. Yeah, right. Right. I think of this. Yeah. No, go. No, please. I was just going to say that when I read this text, to me, it is sort of the original manifesto for patriarchy. I think of this as the original, the beginnings of like the nascent form of what we see today and what we breathe and live today, all of us women, the world over. And I feel like when we read this, it is just so, it sort of takes my breath away, because I feel like the universality of it, like the extrapolations and the universality of all of those little threads is just in their totality sort of hard to comprehend. Like, I think about being in India and like all of those places where this manifests. I think about living here in the United States and all the manifestations of this sort of thing, and I don't know, it's sobering, because I think, when you talk about a song like you were just quoting, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, I don't know you, Rivka, but like the song you were quoting.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Clara. It's nice to meet you. Just to think about how here's a song from 30 years ago, and we're trying to claim like the place of the woman and the power of the women, and we're still struggling with that today. I mean, here's Elana, who's been on the campaign, championing these very things, and is still facing the very same issues. But yet here we are, like following along on my phone, like here it is, like in plain text. It's been presented to us on a platter. Right. Like here, if you're wondering where it came from, here it is. Like I find it just hard to stomach. Very, very hard to stomach and to read. But yes.
I looked it up, by the way.
Pardon?
The song, sorry, I just looked it up, by the way. The song is 35 years old. It's from 1985.
There we go. No.
Yeah.
Elana, I didn't mean to cut you off, but please continue.
No, it's okay. I think I remembered also another story. Do you guys remember the song from Frozen, Let It Go, Let It Go? It's like a super feminist song, right? It touched me like really deeply. I spent like weeks just singing that song, because it's just like, let it go. That's why I want to stop being a little girl. Like, so the song was written by a husband and wife team, and they won a whole bunch of awards. Husband and wife team, and I wish I could remember the name. I can't remember it offhand. I'll look it up afterwards. But they won. This is a husband and wife team that's famous because when they won for that song, they won all 4 kinds of awards. How does it go? The Oscar, the Tony, the Emmy, and the 4th one I'm forgetting. So they
Grammy.
Grammy.
So it's right.
On Wikipedia, he's listed, right? He is listed as the writer of the song. And it like barely even mentions his wife, right? Like someone goes, oh yeah, his wife like collaborated on it. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Very good collaborators, yeah.
But it comes from right here. It comes from right here, this Ha'adam V'ishto, that conceptualization, this entire chapter, Ha'adam V'ishto, that it doesn't matter what women do, right? It's always like, the man and his wife, like always, right here. So that's what you were saying, Gladys, is that like it,
yeah,
we're living it out. We are living it out.
Millennia old. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like I've been having conversations with some of my female friends here recently. Just I don't know. Like I don't know where one begins to break apart these paradigms and these constructs. I don't know how. Like it feels to some extent like an exercise in futility. Like I just don't know where the beginning is and where the end is. Like it just looks like it's just the fabric of life as we know it. But the notion that the options and choices and freedoms and possibilities for and freedoms accorded to women or girls, so many places in so many different forms, are all done through the legislation made by and for men. It's all available to women because of the choices that are made by men, with presumably their own self-interest at the top of the list. Like there are just so many ways that I see that, and I find it just like I don't know, like I don't know where to go with it. Like I look at my girls, and I don't ever want their lives to feel like it's about how they live with respect to someone else, because their needs came first. I don't know how you change that. So anyways, I mean, I'm sort of taking us off on a tangent, but.
No, it's not a tangent at all. It's exactly the point. It's not a tangent at all. This is exactly the point. For me, it's about thinking these things through and asking this question. I don't have an answer. I wish I had an answer. But for me right now, the answer is like sitting in, quarantine and at least talking about it and not forgetting to talk about it, even though like the world has gone crazy and who has time to even think about gender, never mind like talk, but not forget it. Still use these opportunities to still talk about the things that are on our hearts. But I just want to say one of the things that comes to mind with all these elections around us about how women are asked to women are asked to step aside all the time, like the dynamic between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, for example, where like Elizabeth Warren was constantly being told, step aside and let Bernie Sanders win the progressive vote. As if, first of all, to say that anyone who's voting for Warren will immediately vote for Sanders, because without acknowledging the idea that maybe we have different reasons for voting for Elizabeth Warren that have nothing to do with Bernie Sanders. Like, again, subsuming, like the entire Elizabeth Warren camp being subsumed by the Bernie thing, as if like Bernie is the Adam and Elizabeth Sanders is that. So like things like that. The same thing happened here in Israel, by the way. The exact same dynamic happened not in this election, but in the previous election, in the one in September, in the Labor Party, when Stav Shafir and Itzik Shmuley, right, they were both the leaders of that, that labor group, and Itzik Shmuley got up there and said, Stav Shafir, drop out, let all of your people come join me, as if to say like, oh, Itzik Shmuley is the real leader, and Stav Shafir is like the one who could swallow it up.
Supporting character.
Yeah, supporting character, like this. Okay, let's go on to chapter 3. It's Perek Gimel. And okay, for those of you who are just sort of coming on, there was someone who came on before we are studying Chava, the story of Eve, and we are now about to start reading Genesis chapter 3, Perek Gimel, and I am using an online source. I'm using the Chabad site. Chabad has a really good side-by-side English-Hebrew translation that I like, so I put the link in the chat for those who, if you can look on, you can see the group chat. Okay, Perek Arba, chapter 4. הנחש היה ערום מכל חיית השדה אשר עשה אשר אלוקים, ויאמר אל האישה אף כי אמר אלוהים לא תאכלו מכל עץ הגן. Okay, now, a couple of things here. First of all, the word arum, right, we often interpret to mean, evil, seductive. Okay, he was had cunning. Here the English says cunning, okay? But we cannot ignore the fact that a sentence earlier, arum meant naked and shameful. Okay, so again, it's an underlying theme here in this entire story about how we should be ashamed of our bodies. Okay, it's about nakedness as shameful. Okay, and also like it started out with the theme of sexuality, so there's a whole sexuality thing going on here also. Okay, so Nachash has Hayarum. Okay, and then of course he does this thing where he lies. He says, he says, oh, you see, God said you can't eat from anything. How terrible, God said you can't eat from anything. And we know that's a lie, and it was an emotional manipulation. It was like Trump, to exaggerate the truth and, to, okay. Argue with him. A futile way it is to argue with Trump supporters. I'm sorry. Did I just say the snake was the very first Trump supporter? I don't know if I actually to say that, but it's an interesting idea, don't you think? I shouldn't say that. I should not be so willing to exclude Trump supporters from possible viewers. Sorry about that. Okay.
Not a Trump supporter.
Right. So, אמר לא תאכלו ממנו, לא תיגעו בו, and tamutu. And now we have the big thing. The big thing here is that the snake says, don't touch it. Okay, if you touch it, you will die. So again, we have all this like exaggeration and making things worse than they are. And okay, if you touch it, you will die. Okay, and then and now he like really entices her, like, oh, but if you stick with me, I'm going to show you how not to die. There's an entire emotional manipulation happening here. And I know, yeah, we are living in a time of emotional manipulation. We're living in a time when a lot of these tactics are familiar to us. I actually have a blog that I started that I stopped when we started running for Knesset, but the blog is called Toxic Tactics. And in this blog called Toxic Tactics, I write a lot about verbal tactics that are used predominantly by members of the Trump camp or Trump himself to get people, losing our minds a little bit. Here, the Nachash is getting the woman to lose her mind a little bit. He's like playing with things and making her think, wait, but I thought he said that. Wait, what? Wait, what? What? I don't remember now. Like, what? Did he say that? Did God say that? Did God say, did God really say that we can't touch it? Okay. That's what I'm imagining. Okay, again, what I said at the beginning is that I'm rereading these texts from a new set of eyes, from the eyes that are, in 4 years into Trump and deep into patriarchy and all that. So that's where my head is. So I'm just telling you that that's where my head is. Okay. So, ויאמר הנחש אל האישה לא מות המוצאות, כי יודע אלוקים כי ביום אכלתם ממנו ונפקחו עיניכם והייתם כאלוהים יודע טוב ורע. Okay, and like all good lies, there's always an element of truth. So what's the element of truth in the Nachash's great lie? The Nachash is lying to her to get her to do something that he wants her to do. He's being emotionally manipulative to get her to eat with him. Okay? He wants her to eat with him. Have we ever asked the question what the snake wants from her? Is this like a form of rape? I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating also, but like it's certainly seduction, right? He's seducing her into a sensual experience. He's playing with her mind to get her to do something that she hadn't been planning on doing. We don't know what's in it for the snake. What is in it for him? Just putting that out there, okay? Anyway, in this emotional manipulation, he has a bit of truth, which is the truth that we mentioned before, that God doesn't want them to know. God has equated knowing with death. God has said, if you try to know too much, you will die, which is about obedience and not knowing and putting you in your place. And so here, the Nachash is pressing that button very effectively. It's the button of wanting to know or wanting to experience. It's the button of curiosity, of sensuality, of desire. It's the button of desire. Don't we all want to know? Don't we all see a beautiful tree and look at beautiful fruit, pomegranate, or grapes, or figs? Don't look at that and go, wow, the smells, the colors, the texture. Don't we all look at that and say, yes, I want a bite. I want to know. I want to know how that feels. How does it feel to take a bite out of a fig? I want to know. He's playing with desire. He's playing with that desire. The snake is playing with that desire. He's saying, you want to, don't you? The thing about this, and more than rape, it feels even more like child molestation, because this is a lot of times how the adult molester woos the children, through the childlike wonder. In a certain way, Adam and Chava were children, right? They were pure, they were untouched, they were unfettered, they were new. It was all new. So he's feeding into that. Sorry for the mixed metaphor. But he understands that. He's saying, don't you want to know? Don't you want to know? Look at this beautiful tree. Don't you want to touch it? Don't you want to live? That's what the snake is doing to her. So my belly dies in the middle of all this. He is opening her up to desire. And the reason why I think about specifically child molestation also, but rape in general, is because a lot of times rape victims describe that sort of sense of mixed emotions, right? Because in rape, or especially in the child molestation, there's often a piece that feeds into desire, right? So Oprah describes this, okay? She's written a lot about her being raped when she was 9 years old. And she said that the reason why she was shamed about it for so long was because she was raped by some uncle. And she said there was a part of her that liked that this guy was lying next to her and that his body felt warm. And she wanted that. She wanted to be hugged. She didn't want to be raped. But it's so hard for a child to separate, or for any rape victim, I think also, it could be really hard to separate those things. And we see this here also with Chava, right? She's experiencing, she's being seduced by things that she probably wants. She wants to taste. She wants to experience, she wants sensuality. And maybe she does, Dafka, want the thing that God didn't let her have. Maybe she, Dafka, does want to know and to experience. Maybe she doesn't want to be obedient the way God wants her to be. Maybe she doesn't even want to be a helpmate. The way Gladys was saying, well, maybe she doesn't want that entire role. She doesn't want it. Maybe she does want to break out and do something else. And so Nahash is like playing off of all of that. He's playing off of all of that. What do you want, Teddy? Teddy, come here. Teddy. He's feeling for the Nachash. He's saying, you're being too mean to the Nachash. Okay. Right. So what happens next? What happens next?
Can I interject with one other thought that came to mind? Just
Yeah.
that when I think about sort of the temptation piece and women being drawn in, that I feel like it forms a substantiation for future generations of men controlling women. Like I feel like there's this like inherent, there's like an inherent understanding of a woman as being wayward, or having the potential to be wayward, or to, you know, sort of fall off that derech. And I feel like from that come other places where women are subjugated to all kinds of, you know, male controls and suppressed by male needs or urges, because they are obviously, look, you know, if a woman can do this, then what else is she capable of, you know, seeking out or being distracted by or being tempted by? So anyways, just another random thought that flew through my head.
The entire framework of the story is here to blame the woman, right? The story starts with the idea that, you know, that man wasn't working. He wasn't working the land yet. But by the end of the story, a man is punished, and his punishment is he has to work the land. And it's all because of the woman. It's all because she couldn't control her own desire. She couldn't control herself. She didn't know her place. And so it's totally setting it up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep reading. Okay, so here it comes. Ready? Pasuk Vav. ותרא האישה כי טוב העץ למאכל וכי תאווה היא לעיניים ונחמת העץ להשכיר. ותיקח מפריו ותאכל ותיתן גם לאישה עמה ויאכל. Okay, I just want to take a look at how many things the woman did here. Vatera, she saw. כי טוב העץ למאכל, that it was good for eating. וכי תאווה היא לעיניים. תאווה היא לעיניים. Just looking at it filled her with desire. V'nechmat ha'etz lahaskil. Okay, then it was nice for laskil, for knowing. What does that even mean? V'nechmat ha'etz lahaskil. It was awakening her mind too. Was she a scientist? Like she had this like scientific curiosity. Nechmat ha'etz lahaskil. Like she wanted to know how it worked. She wanted to know about, you know, she wanted to know how the biology of it. What? So it was awakening everything in her. It was awakening taste. It was awakening her visual desire. It was awakening her mind and her curiosity. It was waking her up. And so she ate it. She ingested it. And she enjoyed it so much that she wanted to share. She wanted to share. That's how excited she was. Like when we're most excited about something, we go to the people we love and we say, hey, have you seen this great movie? Hey, have you tasted that pizza? Oh my God, you've got to try this, right? So she was doing all of these beautiful things. I just want to tell you, for me, Pasuk Vav is a beautiful, beautiful Pasuk. It's beautiful. It's an act of living. She was alive. Look how alive she is. She's using all of her senses. She's using all of her mind. And she's connecting and she's sharing. And she's connecting with the earth. And she's connecting with her man. And she's doing all of these things and sharing. She's doing all this. She's living fully. Pasuk Vav, she's living fully. And now what happens in Pasuk Zayin? ותפקחנה עיני שניהם וידעו כערומים הם ויטפו עלי תאנה ויעשו להם חגור. Okay. Suddenly, they were ashamed. Their eyes were opened and they had this new thing called shame. Now, ויתפרו עלי תאנה ויעשו להם חגורות. Who is they? Who did the sewing? Who did the sewing? ויעשו להם חגורות. Where are they getting the message that they are naked and need to be ashamed? See, because I think that here there's room to interpret that the shame was imposed on them. Vatipakachna, they were opened, like there was some other force opening their eyes. Okay, and now suddenly, oh, they learned that they need to be ashamed. And then somebody taught them how to sew or somebody made for them. Okay. Shame is not something that is inherent to us. Shame is something that is imposed on us from the outside. Because in Pasuk Vav, she was not ashamed. She was living fully, the way I want all women in this world to live fully. Pasuk Vav is what I wish for women of the world, to have the freedom to feel and to live and to ingest and to enjoy and to have our minds and bodies alive and awake. That is my wish for women. And Zion is our reality. It's what happens to us today when we live fully, is what we're told that we should be ashamed of that. That is very real. The relationship between Pasuk Vav and Pasuk Zion is very real. It's a very real dynamic of what happens to women who live fully. Again, I'm in my post-election campaign. Cynicism, not just that. It's not just from that. You know, I've been working for 25 years on the issue of women's empowerment, and I've seen a lot of things. And so, anyway, okay, let's keep going. וישמעו את קול השם אלוקים מתהלך בגן לרוח היום, ויתחבא האדם ואשתו. Again, we're back to Adam ואשתו. Suddenly, you know, Adam is taking the reins again. ויתחבא, and it's ויתחבא Adam. He's doing the chabé. Maybe he's the one who felt ashamed. ויתחבא האדם ואשתו. ויתחבא האדם, that's singular. ויתחבא האדם ואשתו. Like, okay. מפני השם אלוקים בתוך עץ הגן. All right. Again, we're back to all of that Adam v'ishto thing, and it could be maybe she wasn't ashamed after all. Maybe she didn't want to be running. Maybe she didn't want to be hiding. Okay. Vayikra Hashem Elokim el Adam. Again, Adam is the actor. We're back to Adam being at the center. He says, "Vayomer lo ayaka." Woman isn't even talking anymore. Vayomer et kol chashamati b'gan vayira ke'erom anochi ve'echaveh. Okay, so here in Pasuk Yud, we have the idea that he's the one who felt shame. I'm the one who's erom, I'm the one who's naked, I'm hiding in shame. Okay, so now he goes, in Yud, he was like, oh, I'm the one who felt shame, I'm the one who was hiding, but by Yud Bet, he's willing to say, Haisha, she made me do it. You gave me her. It's your fault, God. You gave me the woman. It's her fault. What have you done? He doesn't even give the woman a chance to like say, why did you do it? With a woman, with a man, he's like, tell me what's happening, what's going on. With the woman, it's like, you've done it now. What have you done? But she says, Hanachash hisiani va'ochel. Okay, but with her, at least there's like a certain truth in that. There was a whole seduction thing that the Nachash did. He was manipulative. So at least like her truth, she's saying, okay, but I don't think that she felt shame until Yud Gimel. I think that Adam was leading the feelings of shame in the previous psukim, but okay, that subject to interpretation. Vayom Hashem Lakim, Vayom Hashem Lakim El Nachash, Ki asit hazot, he doesn't even give Nachash even a question. God is getting less and less patient as the story goes on. Ki asit hazot, arur ata mikol habehema, mikol chayat hasadeh, al kol choncha telech, v'achar tochal kol yemei chayecha. His punishment is that he has no feet, he has no legs, power. He has no power because he has no arms, he has no legs, he has no power. Removing his power for all of eternity. And also he has to eat dirt, okay, which is a metaphor that has stayed. ואיבה אשית בינך לבין האישה ובין זרעך ובין זרעה, הוא ישופך ראש ואתה תשופט עקב. You are now going to be stepped on. The rest of eternity, your kind are going to be stepped on by women, actually. And here, Ashit Beincha Uven Ha'isha. Okay, so it's a recognition. It's a tiny little recognition here of the fact that he hurt the woman. You did something bad to the woman. Okay. Tet Zayin. Ve'el Ha'isha ma harbe harbe etzponech v'helyonech. Okay, this is a really important pasuk. So first of all, here is where we get the idea that women have like this destiny. Like our destiny is to be in pain. Our destiny is to be the pain mother. So like it precludes us from saying no. I'm saying I don't want this. I don't want this pain, or I want some women are destined to be, which this pasuk has informed policy. It has informed social policy, and it has informed economic structures and political structures till today. We're still struggling to get equal pay because why? Should women? The political campaign, what we did in the political campaign went straight up against this. Like we would hear, oh yeah, sure, women would be great at this. They're great at running the house. So that's when it was good. Other times it's like what do women know about politics? Okay. But also I just wanted to tell you that the other thing is, remember I said before about the pasuk that my father used to quote every time he heard about someone being married, right? Where the pasuk was על כן יעזוב איש את אביו ואת אמו ודבק באשתו והיו לבשר אחד. So that's one version of what marriage looks like, is that a man desires a woman or wants to have sex with a woman, so he goes and lives with a woman, and then they become one, which it is a little bit romantic. It's sexuality is a beautiful thing of coming together, even if it's the man who's doing it. The man has a desire, the man comes, the man leaves his father, the man sees a woman, and then they become one. So even that first formulation, women are still an object. Women do not have desire. We don't have our own feelings. We're just the object of man's desire, right? But at least it's better than what we have here, because here we have the degeneration of that idea, where it says, okay, when finally woman has something called desire, it's imposed on her. You shall desire your husband and he shall rule you, right? Meaning that, like, this is a man's reading of what their wives are experiencing, right? Oh, you desire me and therefore I control you, right? Don't you want me and therefore it's my job to rule you. It's like really twisted. And here it's formulated as this punishment / destiny thing. And this here, like what Gladys was saying before, this too, it just informs everything that we see coming out of the Republican Party when it comes to women, but not just the Republican Party. Okay, it also, it's also in Israel, and it's also in Bernie Bros, and it's also and it's in Hollywood, and it's just everywhere. Glad I walked away. Anyway, Rivka, do you have something? Did you want to say something before?
Actually, not really. I'm just taking it all
Okay.
in. And well, actually,
Yeah.
tiny comment.
Yeah.
Because wow, let's see. This goes back to.
Hang on, Rivka,
I guess
I'm
we
going to
can
interrupt you. Okay?
totally,
Rivka, hang on.
totally. Sorry.
Gladys, while you got up, we got to the section that says "Ve'eli shech teshukatech v'hu yimshal bach." Hang on. Oh, maybe she can. Can you hear me? No, she's not. Okay. Lachashuk, she's. Yeah, Rivka, what did you want to say? Or
You.
oh, wait a second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can
Yeah.
hear you. Yeah,
What I wanted to say is that basically I mainly wanted to express frustration at how immersed we still seem to be in this like toxic soup. I I don't have kids, but I also come from what is largely a very conservative family. Very long story. And basically, it's so funny actually because right now I'm at my parents' house, and you know if my brothers would walk in, they'd be like, "Oh my God, feminism!" Like they keep telling me that ever since I started, you know, I've really improved my chances of finding a husband now that I started cooking because I've been so immersed in feminism. So, and they sort of, it's sort of a joke, but it's also sort of not. And I'm just thinking, wow, like that's actually not the way that they were brought up. My parents aren't like that at all. And so I wonder, like, where's this coming from? Like in 2020, my brothers are, well, this brother's 17, the other's 22. Like, where and how, you know? Like, is it from shul? Is it from, I don't want to say rape culture because, you know, I think, I mean, I like to understand, I like to think that they're not, actual molesters, but like where and like how?
So I ask myself the same question also.
Right.
I don't have any brothers, but also, it seems to me it comes here in Israel. It comes also from army culture, and it
Right.
comes from, and the army culture feeds into business culture and politics, and also religious culture. Like just like a little thing that I was thinking last week on Purim, that we were trying to organize a mixed Megillah reading, and there was somebody in the group who said, no, only men could read, because they said only a man could be motzi yedei chova, a woman, right? And so, first of all, like I showed some sources that show that a woman
Right.
can also be, okay? But I started thinking about that whole concept about motzi yedei chova. Like, what does it mean to be brought up in a setting in which only a man could be motzi yedei chova, a woman? Like, how does that construct power relationships?
Right.
In a very like unspoken way? Like we sort of take it as like, oh well, that's halakha, so therefore, but like it creates this whole construct of powerlessness, of women
Right.
as not having the power of our voice. Our voice, we can make a bracha and it doesn't have
It
any
doesn't
power.
affect, yeah.
Like, what does that
Right.
even mean? And what does it do to people being socialized into that language of she can't be motzia lidei chova a man? Like, what does that do? It's
Right.
it's all encompassing. It's like everywhere. But I think what Gladys was saying before, which is I really subscribe to, which is that in other words, this text is the penultimate patriarchal text that is still in play. This text is still in play. It has still informed so much of what we do and what we're living with, like on a day-to-day basis. I think, and so to answer about your brothers, it's everywhere. It infuses everywhere.
It's really weird. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, this is,
Right.
let's finish up. We only have a few, so did you want to say something else?
I wanted to say that I wanted to build upon what you were saying about you know, the issue of, for example, women reading Megillah for men, and how, you know, that makes them, let's say, you know what the concept is that I hate even more than that idea. And again, I like became religious, so for me, I took all of this for granted when I was younger because I grew up like very much loyal to the Orthodox community here. It's very like my community is very different than, for example, a North American or Israeli community. So basically, later on, when I actually, you know, went over the source and I was like, oh, you know, there's so many more possibilities, you know, than rabbinic leadership lets on. I think the least favorite idea that I encountered was the idea of, if I remember correctly, kavod hatzibur. So the issue of, even when a woman, you know, can technically do it, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. Like, that to me is almost worse than men saying that people are not yotze.
The embarrassment is, no, the embarrassment, the idea of kavod hatzibur, why is it said of a woman, if there's a woman reading Torah, why is that an inyan of kavod hatzibur? Because it suggests
right, that the men don't know.
Man who can do it better, right?
Right.
That, like, obviously no man would ever let a woman do it if he could do it himself.
Right.
So there it is, right there.
Right.
Like it's, you know, also like when I was growing up, you know, my mother would never drive the car if my father was in the car. My father would never sit in the passenger seat and let my mother be in the driver's seat. It's just, we would pick my father up for work sometimes. My mother would slide over and let my father, because God forbid that a man should let a woman lead her. That, by the way, is the number one issue that I think we encountered when we were running for Knesset, is the idea that people, men and women alike, cannot picture the idea of men being led by a woman. It's like it's an offense, this idea of a man being led by a woman. It's what I was thinking of as a Devorah Barak story, which we'll do some other day. We'll do the Devorah story. I love that story. But what is the Devorah Barak story? Is about a woman leading a man. It's the only story we have in our entire tradition, pretty much, where a man says, I want a woman to lead me. And still, here we are 3,000 years later, and it is such a difficult concept. The idea of a man saying, woman, lead me. I am following you. Right? It comes from here. It comes from here, and it infuses everywhere. Anyway, okay, let's try to. I didn't know how long this would go, but it's pretty long, and so let's try to just wrap up our last few psukim, and then we'll continue again. I don't know, maybe tomorrow. I'm thinking about doing this every day. Like, why not? You know, sitting at home and all coroned. Okay. Here we go. Ready? We're going to just finish up the. Okay. So we were up to.
My headphones died.
Okay. We were up to verse 17, Yud Zayin. Okay. Now Yud Zayin is exactly what I just said here. Okay. Ul Adam Amar, to the man, he said, Ki shamata lekol ishtecha. You dared to listen to the woman. You listen to her. What are you doing listening to a woman? You are going to suffer for that for eternity. You and the land that you are supposed to be guarding. And remember, the whole story was framed around the idea that man's purpose in this world is to work the land. It's about man's connection to the land, and you've done it. You've ruined man for all of eternity. You're going to be sweating. The land is no longer your friend. All of these punishments have to do with man's altered and destroyed relationship with the land. She ruined his life. She ruined his life for eternity. Woman has ruined man's destiny. Man's destiny was to be the guardian over the land, and now it's all ruined. It's going to cause him to sweat and to work hard, and thorns and thistles and okay. And what do we have at the very end? Finally, he gives her a name. He comes back to the place where I am in charge. Woman, I, Adam, am in charge of you. I am giving you your name. Em Kol Chai, your destiny now is to be a mother. That's it. Don't do anything else. Don't go looking at trees. Don't go talking to snakes. Don't go trying new things. Do not try to think for yourself. Do not step out of your box. You be the obedient one that you're supposed to be. That is your destiny. That is your destiny, to be the obedient one, the mother of all living things. Signed, sealed, and delivered for all of eternity. And vayas Hashem Elokim la'adam l'shtok b'torat ov v'yal b'shem. And by the way, you should be ashamed. I am clothing you because you should be ashamed. That's it. That's pretty much. And then, of course, they get kicked out. And okay. That's the story. Very neat. It sort of like comes to a neat ending. And this is what we're fighting against. What Gladys said, the penultimate patriarchy. So do you want to try to end with some positive notes, some positive thoughts about what do we do with this? Let's leave the last 5 minutes. What do we do with this reality, with this information? Because that's what you asked before, Gladys. You were like, what do we do now? Like what? Any thoughts?
I'll throw something out. I find, so like a little bit of like a backtrack. When I knew that I was expecting our first son, we have 4 kids, 2 girls and then 2 boys. And so when I knew that we were expecting our older son, I had a freak out. I was like, holy shit, pardon my language. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, already I feel like I have a pretty low general understanding of the male population and my expectations of them and my thoughts about how they run the world and whatever, all of this stuff that goes through my head. And I was like, how do I change that? How do I create a different reality for this person that I'm now responsible for raising when he's born? And so then he was born. And so what I was going to say in terms of a positive note is that I feel like I have the power. I have the power to change his notions of what it means to be a man in this world and what it means to have sisters and mother and daughters eventually and a wife if he chooses, and whatever comes of that. Like I feel like it is my place and my role among many other roles to shape for him his new paradigm. It doesn't have to be the sort of like the toxic male culture that's out there that I think sort of is like a natural feeder. So where that takes me is when the Super Bowl happened recently, he had gone with some of the guys in his grade had a party. I was with my sisters and my nieces and nephews and whatever. So then we all reunited back at home the next evening, whatever. And he says to me, I had a really upsetting night, Mom, because at the party, like everybody, all these boys were commenting on J-Lo and Shakira and the way they were dressed and how they looked. And it was pretty disgusting. I was like, so what happened? What did you do? I said, first of all, why were you upset? He's like, well, it just wasn't right the way they were speaking about them. All right. So I was like, check. Okay, that's already a good thing that registered on his radar as not being okay. And then he said, and then I said something to them. And then the retort was that they were all calling him gay, because that was how they needed to deal with the fact that he was speaking out against this like popular culture of like, how do we, look at women, digest the way they behave. The whole thing was just, it blew my mind. And I looked at him and I gave him a hug and I said, listen, I said, gay or not, straight or not, I said, first of all, the way they spoke to you was not acceptable. But secondly, I want to just commend you for being the person who spoke out and took the high road to say, this is not acceptable. We can't be like this. We're better than this. And whatever. It was like such a stark thing. So the power is in us, I think, to, in small ways that can become bigger, in sort of the micro, we have the power to change, whether it's one young man who becomes the person who speaks out, that's all I'm going to say. I don't know. Again, as I indicated earlier, like I find the enormity of it just overwhelming.
Right.
But to me, that was a win on so many levels, that it was just like a moment of triumph that something had gotten through in all these 13 years thus far, of teaching and speaking and trying to be the voice of another way of looking at women in the world. So, and the constructs.
You raised a really important question also about the relationship between the micro and the macro, about, how they inform each other. Because sometimes I think all we have are these micros. All we have is like lots and lots of little interactions. I tried the other route, like I tried the route of going large, but you can't do one without the other. Our campaign was like hundreds of little micros like that, constant. I was really hoping that like we could make like a grand statement, and through a big statement, we could inform all of that. But if the ground isn't ready, if we're still having all these things, then we can't make that grand statement. It was just it was like they feed off of each other. The top and the bottom, the grassroots and the larger change, they feed off of each other. I wish I had a solution about this, actually, about how to do both at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's a single pat solution or answer. I think it is legitimately about sort of being in the trenches every day and at every opportunity to try to debunk those notions of what, these contracts should be. Like this notion that because these women are out there dancing on a stage, that we need to look at them through certain lenses, that their feminine, allure or whatever is there for male pleasure, and therefore by default should also be derided and should also be criticized because, oh my God, they showed too much. Like really, I don't know, we can dissect that in so many other ways, right? But at the end of the day, to teach our young men that, like, you know what, they're not just there for their pleasure. That might have just simply been their way of expressing themselves, and that's cool too. And that's great. And, we have to be empowered to know that that's great, and we accept that. It doesn't have to be a place from which we then can, criticize and put down, and I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you, Ivka. Thank you, Gladys. And I see Sally's here. I don't know which Sally is. I can't see her picture, but thank you for being here. Anyway.
Sally Berkowitz?
I'm sorry?
No, there's no last name, and it's so frustrating. I keep wondering if it's Sally Berkowitz.
Oh, is it? Might be.
I don't know. Yeah, I hope I'll text her.
Okay, we'll talk more. I'll come back tomorrow. I'm gonna try to do this again.
Beautiful.
Tomorrow, we'll keep going. We'll talk about Sarah. There's a lot to talk about with Sarah and Hagar and internalized patriarchy and relationships between women. To talk about the Sarah Hagar dynamic, we should talk about that. We'll do that tomorrow, or maybe
Sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to do it at the same time tomorrow without promising. That's gonna be my goal.
Keep us posted. Thanks,
Thank you.
Elana. Bye. So nice to talk with you, Rivka. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Say hi to Jason. Bye. Thomas said hi. Okay, bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.